Harvest of the Royal Fleet, written by Sjanevardsson. A gash appeared in space, disgorging hundreds of ships of the Royal Fleet along the edge of an asteroid field. As soon as the last ship had emerged from L-space into real space, the gash faded from local time-space. Attention all ships of the Queen's expedition. We claim another system in the name of the Queen and Empire this day. Let the Empire rejoice and all others weep for the presence of the Royal Fleet. The communication device clicked off. Scans full fleet, full sweep. Route concerns to weapons and security, and all planetary and stellar scans to science. Full scans aye, all scans and telemetry linked. The combat commander looked bored as she watched data scroll from left to right on her screen. The minutes passed by with the hum of a flagship bridge on another routine mission. Scans returning now. Report! Nothing from security or weapons. All flag possible targets eliminated as false positives. The combat commander answered. And from science? The science officer didn't raise his head from where he studied his screens of text and images. As expected, the planets 1 through 3 are ideal for mining, including extensive atmospheric mining on the second and average atmospheric mining opportunities on the third. Best colony location is 4th planet, although atmosphere is thin. Gravity wells in 2 and 3 are too extreme for extended stay, but, the Admiral's antennae twitched. Out with it, science! The thing's weapons and security called false positives, based on the last few minutes of scans. They're not natural. These signatures inside the asteroid field are moving under their own power, not in phase with orbital physics. These are ships. 2 of them have reversed their direction. The communications device clicked again. All fleet, shields up, unknown vessels. Contact starward inside the asteroid field. Combat stations. The Admiral clicked off the device. Comms, hail on all channels and patch through to any response immediately. Heading all channels aye, the communications officer's antennae drooped in a way that indicated that he was focused on something. Radio communications, no known language or protocol. Science, report on targets. The Admiral stood tense behind her chair. We don't want to start a war with our allies. Any idea who we're looking at? Negative, Admiral. What little we can scan of them before they hide behind the asteroid matches nothing known to the Empire. The Admiral took a deep breath as she was unaware she'd been needing. Combat Commander, you're in charge. Combat in command, aye. Helm, full standby power for maneuvers, weapons ready for fire on open configuration. Lock on nearest targets flagged by science. Weapons FOO, aye. Obtaining locks, locking. Locked on 31 targets, last known locations. They're cowering behind the larger asteroids. The combat commander's antennae stood in anticipatory tension. Comms, patch their radio communications through. Even if you don't understand the language, we might get the mood. Aye, Commander. Patching now. The sound of the radio communications from the unknown ships came over the speakers on the bridge. The science officer closed all 8 eyes and focused on the sounds coming from the radio transmissions. The speech was guttural, clipped, and lacking in tonality. He listened to the different voices, and how efficient their messages were despite their vocal limitations. He began to notice certain sounds repeated, and thought they might be identifiers for the different speakers. 1 2-syllable sound was repeated at the end of every message, as if to say, I'm done talking now, someone else can talk. They can't multiplex their communications, he said. He raised his hand when he heard the sound again. That sound means they're done talking and someone else can transmit. The Admiral sighed. Figures that we end up in a system with primitives. Anything science can get on them, let me know. If any survive, they'll be added to the Empire's labor pool. Aye, Admiral, the science officer added. The radio communications went silent. One of the primitive ships maneuvered out from behind the asteroid and turned face on to the flagship. Lights blinked on a primitive ship, and the flagship sensors picked up pulsed, long-wave laser scans of the ship. The combat commander gripped a chair. They're marking us for targeting. Helm, evasive actions. Weapons full, hot now. Fire at will. The radio chatter from the primitive started up again as the flagship moved with the speed and grace her size belied. Energy weapons blazed at the ship, still sending out its pulsed laser beacon, but did very little damage. The ship retreated into the asteroid field once again. Science, what kind of shielding is that? The combat commander asked. No energy signatures. Looks like ablative atmospheric shielding. The combat commander's antennae twitched. They take something that size into the atmosphere. The combat commander, admiral, weapons officer, and science officer were still pondering their next move when the automated weapon systems began firing as the collision warning blared. The weapons broke the asteroid into pieces just in time for it to tear through the hull in hundreds of pieces. As one, all 74 ships of the Royal Fleet were destroyed in a matter of minutes. A last, desperate Alspace message was beamed from the last ship to die. "System held by primitives. They've killed us all." "Lucky, don't go out there. They look mean, over." The voice on the radio belonged to her co-worker, Emma. She laughed as she keyed the mic. "Don't sweat it, man. I'm just going to try and get a read on the size. It looks tiny from here, but, it's hard to tell when they're outside the belt like that. Over." Lucky piloted her mining barge out from behind the asteroid Emma was parked against and fired up her LiDAR. No sooner had it started confirming that the ship was half the size of her barge than the ship pivoted and squirmed in a way it shouldn't be able to. Then the race started. Her re-entry shielding heated up and began sloughing off as she got back behind the asteroid as fast as her tug could go. "They fucking shot up my re-entry shield, over." "So much for non-hostile intents. Kukuru, you all know what to do, over." Grayson, the foreperson, was far more subdued on the radio than usual. "Yeet rocks at the bad guys," someone yelled on the radio, a moment before keying back in and adding, "over." The assortment of barges, tugs, diggers, and corers went full burn against the asteroids they hid behind, turning a hard 90-degree burn at the last possible moment to get away from the impact. Within minutes, the alien fleet was expanding cloud of detritus. "I'm not going to be able to land," like he said. "We'll have to put into dock at Mars orbital for repairs, over." "That's going to fuck the wallet," Grayson said. Some of the usual jollity returned. "All right, folks, gather up all the trash from the broken toys. We're going to more than make up for Lucky Shield's new tech, over." "Roger, Chief. We're already on it, over." "Thanks, Diggity. Let's get rich, over." "Grayson Corporate here, sending half a P crew along with half an R crew to assist, over." "Corporate, we got it handled. 2, maybe 3 barge loads from all the ships. Where should we deliver, over?" "I'll cancel the call for assist. They wanted straight back to home base, landing at GSC. Sorry, Lucky. You'll have to sit this one out, over." Lucky sighed and keyed her mic. "Roger, Corporate. I'm heading for Mars orbital now, before something important breaks out." "Q crew," Grayson called over the radio. "Squawk 0011 to vote full share for Lucky, over." The radio chirped dozens of times. "Corporate for Lucky, over." "Lucky, go for Corporate, over." "Unanimous vote from Q crew. You're getting a full share from this haul. We'll see you at MO, out." "Enough ass-grabbing already. Let's get this shit loaded and get it back home, out." Grayson sounded off, but the hint of playfulness was never far beneath. Within a matter of hours, the once mighty Royal Fleet was loaded into 3 mining barges and heading back to Earth as a standard half-burn. Grayson piped some music into the comms to entertain most and annoy a few of the miners. End of story. Story number 2. The First Race, Humanity, written by Archangel 98. An ancient species, larger than life, and so long-lived, each of their kind can survive longer than several generations of my species. And because of this, they were the first race in the galaxy to develop. Their history, as vast and endless as it may seem, is well documented. And in it is the beginning of most sentient species in the galaxy is recorded. In fact, several of the races most common amongst the stars were created by humanity. I don't mean they grew us in vials and amino acids and loose strands of DNA, but rather they took what already existed and nurtured us until we were strong enough to stand on our own. They had done this countless times with the creatures of their own world, creating familial bonds with lesser creatures and making them part of their lives and families. My species, Canis sapien, was the first that humanity elevated. We had our genomes altered and perfected until we resembled our masters, although they do dislike it when we refer to them that way. But it's hard not to think of them as divine or as some kind of creators when they are so different from us. They stand so much taller, think so much faster, and see the world through eyes so unique. After they created us, they began to seed the other star systems with pre-made genetic samples, so that even after their last of their kind takes its final breath, their work will still continue in some form. One by one, they found or made more races, adding them to the galactic alliance they were building. It was meant to be kind of an interstellar community. Eons passed, and humans became an increasingly rare sight amongst the cosmos. Some developed ships to fly to other galaxies. Some died, but most simply succumbed to the great equalizer, time. They lived an average of 5 times longer than most of the races, and equal to only 2. But as hard as they tried, they were not immortal. Their genetic code was degrading after centuries of editing and rewriting. Most humans decided that being a human was a state of mind and altered their genomes so that the decay did not affect them. But they were not recognizable as true human anymore. Some, however, decided they wanted to stay how they were and resolved themselves to fade into the voids of time with dignity. There is less than 10,000 known humans now, and fewer every day. But they, to me, still look as angelic as the first time I laid eyes on them. Many of the races that humanity had created began searching for methods to aid them, but nothing of merit ever came to fruition. We welcomed what was left of them into our home, families, and lives with open arms for their final days. My family has always had a human for as long as any of us could remember. His name was Michael. According to our pack's records, his family and ours had been together for longer than my race had existed, as we are now. Once, his family took ours in as their own children. And now, in their final days, we are honored to take care of them. Michael was the last of his lineage. He had no offspring, no spouse, but never complained. He was growing ill, but never once did he lose his smile. I walked up and sat beside his bed with water and some food for him. "Hey, buddy," he said, and placed a gentle hand on my neck. It was a sign of love for humans to hold and touch each other. Michael removed his hand and laid it slowly back down on his bed. He was dying. Slowly. He had been for a very long time. I talked to him for a while, made sure that he'd eaten the food I had brought him earlier, and checked his condition, before he drifted off to sleep. Michael died that night, and we mourned the end of an era for our pack. Humans were dying, but in the hearts and minds of all of us, their children, they would live forever. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.